I'll say hi. This is a test video, and if it goes well, we will upload this to YouTube. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it didn't suck too badly. So today we are going to do a watercolor look using some outline stamps. We're going to watercolor and spritz and spray, slide some color around, and let's get started. So we're going to use our StazOn black ink because we don't want our outline images to run. So we're going to put this on, and we're going to use our embossing gun to heat set the ink so it won't run when we start adding lots and lots of water. I really like this back-to-back blooms, and it is about to be retired, so I wanted to make use of it at least one more time. So I'm gonna create a background basically with these stamps. All right, so I'm gonna throw a couple of smaller images on here. Now I am using watercolor paper, so it looks like you need to push just a tiny bit harder when you have the watercolor paper so that your images go on there nice and crisp and clean. All right, I think I'm gonna add a couple little extras on here. Let's see. Protecting my surface behind me, which helps just a little bit. Then I don't have ink quite everywhere. Oops, I smudged that one just a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. I think I'm gonna test out this new one. I have not used this one, so let's see how this one looks. Oh, that's pretty. Oh, I should probably move this up just a little bit. I'm getting used to this new system. There we go. Now you can actually see what's going on in the stamping world. Okay, and let's put one up here and one off the edge over here. All right. So next we're gonna take this and we're gonna add some color after we set the ink. So I'm gonna cover this up because I will definitely wear that one. So I have my tools all set up. I'm gonna step away from the camera for just a moment. Our embossing tool actually has a nice low heat setting, but I do not have a plug any closer, so unfortunately it's not the greatest. So I just have this on the #1 setting. The #2 setting is for using our embossing powders. Get that out of the way. So now our heat is set that ink for us. We're gonna put these to the side. There we go. And I have brought out current in colors, Magenta Madness and Just Jade. Okay. And so one of the ways we can use our inks is by squishing the pad onto the lid. So when I open this up, you can see I've got a little bit of ink on here, and I'm gonna leave this open. And I'm gonna do the same here. So I'm just kind of pushing on the back and the front, hoping it will give me just enough ink on that lid there. So now I have a water painter. It's just water inside of a paintbrush. Let's see, I think there we go. And I'm gonna pick up some of this Magenta Madness color, and I'm gonna focus it in the center. I've got a water spritzer since I am using some watercolor paper. I'm going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a spritz in the right direction. There we go. And I can actually spritz the back just a little bit here as well, so we don't have quite as much of a bend in the card. We will have to dry this each step of the way. So we're going to add, there we go. Now that pink is really pulling from the center out. I'm going to zoom in just a tiny bit here so you can see. So we want this to be darker on the insides and it'll go lighter towards the outside. Just kind of pull that out. You can see it's not, again, it's never a perfection type of process, especially with watercolors. If I want it to bleed just a little bit more, I can spritz it some more. And you can see that color just kind of pulls. You can just keep pulling that out towards the edge here. Just pick up a little bit more and keep going. All right, so we have our first one colored with a little extra pulled. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn this sideways here. Get some more color on my brush. And again, I'm going to start in the center with more boldness, and then I'm going to pull from the center outward. Let that color kind of flow in the water, which is what that watercolor paper does. I was a little nervous today that we had discontinued the watercolor paper, but I realized that we had not, so I could use my watercolor paper and be able to tell you that you can find this in our current catalog and our next catalog. So that's kind of exciting. A little darker in here. Okay. I'm a lefty, hence the reason for all the turning. So in this process, you get to do what you want. So again, third flower, darker in the center. I can see I've got a little less water down here. So I'm gonna add a little bit of color and then I'm gonna go ahead and spritz that. There we go. So you can kind of pull some of this out. Most flowers are darker towards the center, unless you have some fire and ice roses where they might have some white tips or red tips. So you want to put darker areas where there might be some shadow or overlapping, where your flower might be more condensed in the center versus on the outside. But there are no police in the stamping world. So if you want to make yours reverse with dark on the outside and light in the center, you go for it. Because that's what crafting is all about. You want to be your own person, put your own design on here. Okay. I'm going to do just a little bit more pink on these half flowers. And then I'm going to switch to our Just Jade, which is a really pretty green. And it's going to go really well with our new green colors that will be coming out next month. We have an evening evergreen. And we have a succulent color, which I don't have the names memorized just quite yet. I haven't even gotten my new colors in. So as I use those, I'll probably learn them a little bit better. Okay. So I've got my first layer of my Magenta Madness on here. I'm just going to kind of drag this around. Then I'm going to add a little bit of the Just Jade. And our water painters are pretty good at not picking up too much excess from one color to the next, but you can always wipe excess off on your background paper if that's a concern, or if you see that it's a problem. I'm just gonna throw this green in here. Again, my first layer will be the lightest layer, and as I continue, it will actually get darker, and I'm gonna add some of our watercolor pencils to this as well, just for some dark insides and variegation of colors, so it's not so boring. Just kidding, it's still pretty even if it were simplified. So one more spot to color green, and it's looking kind of dry, so let's spritz that right there. You could pull out your re-inkers if you didn't have enough color. You could put some ink on the baby wipes and do it that way. I do not mind. You could even put a drop of the re-inker in your lid itself. Ooh, look at that one. We got that one nice and squished in there. So now I'll get a little bit better coloring right here. And then I'm gonna add just a little bit of this color on the edges. And I'm gonna spritz that so it will blend just a little bit. Nice background, and this will likely end up being a Mother's Day card, because that's what's coming up next for me is Mother's Day. So I will be putting together some Mother's Day cards to send out to all the mothers in my world. Okay, let's see if we can spritz just a little bit more. And then we'll dry it and we'll add some details. Oh, I'm trying to put the wrong lids on. Let's blend this just a little bit. There we go. All right. If you can see how these colors just kind of run in the water, just kind of travel, makes it very pretty. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna pause this, I hope. Maybe not, because it looks like all I can do is stop it. So give me a moment and I'll be back. All right. So that didn't take too long. I hope you grabbed yourself a drink, maybe a snack, and you're back to watch the rest. So here is our fabulous card base. We have one coat of watercolors on here, and we've kind of mixed them around. So now I'm actually going to take my water painter, and I'm going to add a little bit of darker spots here and there. So I'm going to add it to these little flowers here. And this is just going to give my card a little bit more detail and interest when I put it together. So these little flowers here. And of course they're watercolors. They do not have to be in the lines because coloring outside of the lines sometimes is the trick. So here's that little bit of detail. And this is one of the more creative options that I have done in a while. So it does take just a little bit more time than just slapping some ink on a page and putting it together. But if you enjoy doing some more complicated projects, this one is for you. Not that it's complicated as much as it is time, a little more time involved in it. Okay, so now with these, I'm just gonna do the lines here. Like again, just for that little extra detail. And I have one more up here. Ooh. Okay, so a little bit there. I'm gonna get any of the green off. We're gonna go back to the pink. Get this green out of the way. There we go. And we're gonna squish this so we can have some more. And I'm gonna move this just a little bit. There we go. I find that squishing on the back works the best for me. So getting a little more flexibility from the back towards the front. So I'm just gonna add that little bit of darker color in the centers here. And I can come back with a little bit of extra water. I could blend this out again, just like we did the first time, just to kind of soften the edges a little bit. You can use just your water painter for that. So I can squeeze this a little bit and give myself a little extra water to have nice, soft, feathered edges. Okay. Again, feathering those edges just a little bit. Might add a little extra to these down up here, up here. Ooh. Alright, so that is pretty much how you get this little extra detail in here. Now I got this entire idea from a group, Split Coast Stampers. So if you do not follow them on Instagram or on Pinterest, and you are enjoying seeing this little tutorial process, that is where I got this from. So there are some super creative ladies at Split Coast Stampers, and I think it's weekly. I will get an email with some cool ideas, and occasionally I make the time to make it happen. So this week it was this really cool watercolor tutorial, and I've really enjoyed it, considering I want to have some Mother's Day cards ready to go soon. I figured I would double duty the Mother's Day card. All right, so we're gonna let this dry again, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of watercolor pencil to it, but I'm gonna share a second stamp set that I think is going to be really wonderful with this process. And it's called Celebrate Sunflowers. We do have coordinating dies, as you can see on my little note here. These come out nice and bold, and I'm excited to put this sunflower to the test. So, again, I have to use that Stays On ink because I don't want it to bleed when I add all of the watercolors, all that liquid. I don't want this to run. So we will make sure we've got a good coat of ink on here. And this is gonna be, let's do you in the upper corner here. Ta-da. All right. The coolest part about this stamp set is that it has these beautiful leaves as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little Post-it note because I'm going to do a little bit of a masking. Make sure it's nice and dry. And we're going to just do a little bit, again, of a masking. So I might mask the flower right here so that I can get that on there. So masking helps us to put the edge of a shape on here without getting the whole thing on the flower. Now I could cut this flower out, line it up, but today we're going to do super simple masking because we are watercoloring. So it's going to have a little bit of color in between there. Okay, so there we go. All right, so I'm not going to complete this card on camera, but I wanted to show you another look, and I will try to add that as I learn how to extra pictures. But I will post it on my Facebook page, so equallycreativliving.com and Facebook and Equally Creative Living. All right, so let's go back to this one and take a look at this and see if we want to add any color anywhere, but I really like it. It's nice and subtle. I know on the camera some spots look white, but it's actually not white at all. So this I am going to put on a Just Jade cardstock background. So we're going to go ahead and finish this up. And so we had that ready, but we're not completely ready. So remember, practice video. If this makes it to YouTube, it's all a bonus, right? So we're gonna go ahead and put a little burnishing on this edge here. Okay. And we're gonna add a double layer. So I'm gonna add just a layer of white cardstock to the back here. Away. A little bit of white here. Okay, and we're going to add this one on dimensionals. If I had to pick one of my favorite items, of course it would be dimensionals. If my daughter was here, she would tell you that her favorite item is Wink of Stella. So she likes to add a little bit of sparkle to everything. And I like to add a little bit of up and down movement with dimensionals. And I do want this to be nice and supported. So I put lots on there. Ooh. I always struggle getting these off when I am videoing myself on camera, so if you have some tricks, let me know. Okay, so we're going to put this in the middle here. Excellent. And now we're going to add a sentiment. Again, I am thinking about a Mother's Day sentiment. So I have that out here somewhere. Happy Mother's Day. Here we go. And I'm not sure if it's going to fit on my scraps. Yeah, it should. However, I am prepared if it does not. So let's use Just Jade. Get a nice sentiment on here. There we go. Look at that. I'm telling you, Stampin' Up! Has some of the best stamps that are on the market. They typically come out nice and crisp and clear. I usually do not have to stamp them multiple times unless it's operator error. So maybe I should say I only occasionally have to stamp them multiple times. All right, so that's where I'm going to put this one. And again, I am going to use dimensionals. We're going to put these across that card, and then we're going to trim the ends. Okay. Let's get this right where we want it. Right here. And we'll take our snips, and I'm just going to snip this aligned with the white cardstock underneath. And there you have your Mother's Day card. See if I can zoom in just a little bit on that. There we go. Our watercolor and our Mother's Day all in one video. I hope you enjoy, and subscribe, I think, so you can see more of my conundrums while stamping. I wish I had a clever name for for all of my stamping, because I certainly don't have as smooth of a time as some other friends that I know. So feel free to post some tips or tricks or links to other websites that I could get some extra information from. And until then, thank you for watching. I hope you join me at equallycreativeliving.com.